Welcome to the Global Real Estate and Entrepreneurship Podcast. This is Nicole Forrester, real estate broker and professional financial planner, here today with some fantastic value for you to answer some amazing questions that we all have about garden and laneway suites. I'm here today with two amazing gentlemen who are titans in their industry. I've got Moh Salmany with me, as well as Ali Salmany with me, father and son duo of Atena Construction. Moh and Ali, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure being here. Thanks for having us on.
Moh, can you tell us a little bit about your journey in construction?
Hello, my name is Moh Salmany. That's roughly around 43 years ago. I decided to be a builder, and I started with my dad's house, and I demolished in my hand and I rebuilt it. The first job was like a university for me, because from A to Z, from drawing, I was roughly around 19 years old to 20 years old that I started my first journey in construction. And until now is my passion in my life. And after the first job, I established my construction company. After that, I went to university. I studied civil engineering, and I started to go and grow in construction business. And one of the first mid-rise in east of the Tehran capital city, I started in that part. And I've done so many technical parts, from structural and architectural and interior design, all of the projects that I take care of them.
Fantastic. And Moh, no one would believe that you're in this business 43 years. So thank you for telling us. And I know you have your dynamo of a son and partner who's joined you. And I know you have a master's in real estate infrastructure from the Schulich School of Business, which is incredibly impressive. Ali, please tell us more about what you're spearheading for your group.
Sounds good. Again, thank you so much for having us here. It's a pleasure to be here. I think there's going to be a lot of great value, and you're doing an amazing job in providing that and facilitating that. So kudos to you. So I was fortunate enough to be born into a family where my father was already in the business. So I guess you could say that I had a leg up, but from the very beginning, like, he made sure that I understood, you can't really get somewhere without putting in the work. So that's sort of what I've been involved with. I've been taking care of basically majority of the operation components of the business, everything from dealing with the clients, all the back end stuff, working with all the sub trades that are on the site, just making sure that everything comes according to the plan. And we've been very active in the past few years, ever since the Laneway bylaws became a thing in the city of Toronto, which was the first city in the Greater Toronto area which implemented them. So we've been working with various architects and some names in the business to bring some of these laneways and garden suites to life. So it's been very exciting. What's fascinating about it is that you're able to utilize an untapped space within your existing house, within your existing lot, which to us as builders and developers is all that we're really focused on. Development is, it's not just building things; it's being able to add value. And we've been excited on this journey, collaborating with homeowners, collaborating with investors, as well as other professionals just like yourself, and just navigating all the various things that are required in setting them up, and then also handing them over to the client for them to be able to use.
Fantastic. And, you know, truthfully, that's where Moh and I met. We were both part of the Affordable Housing Summit at the University of Toronto. And, you know, that was one of the amazing things about this summit. It was bringing different players involved in real estate and involved and had a heart for the affordability issue in the Greater Toronto area that we're all faced with, to come up with viable solutions. So it's fantastic that you brought up that, you know, within the Greater Toronto area, we're now allowed as homeowners to have these garden suites and laneway suites. You know, there's a lot of interest around this for my clients and for homeowners and property investors in the Greater Toronto area. So we wanted to do today a little bit of a case study with you and Moh about, you know, for a consumer, for a homeowner in the Greater Toronto area, what would it look like to hire your group? How much space would they need? And what's the process? How long would it take to put up a garden or a laneway suite? What does that look like for the consumer?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and this is something that we get asked on a regular basis. To start off with, just so that it's very clear, a garden suite or a laneway suite is basically another freestanding, and majority of the time it is a detached structure that's being placed on the same lot, on the same property. Now, it is subject to various setbacks, various distances, various heights, which I'll touch upon very briefly, just so that we have a sense of it. But to basically start the journey, it's very simple. One, you got to own the property, so that's typically the case. Or with a lot of realtor and real estate professionals, investors, they intend to purchase a property is also a good point to start with. From there, we do a quick assessment just off of the various things that I mentioned. What's the distance to the fire hydrant, which is, the most important part in the beginning. Is there sufficient distance between the back of the house and the backyard? Now, typically in backyards where the depth is more substantial, you find that you have a lot more flexibility because there is a minimum requirement that you need to maintain. And the minimum for a 1-story, so they've divided into 1 and 2-story, which is the maximum. So in order for you to apply and get approval for a 1-story, you need to basically have a free clear space of about 5 meters, which is about 16 feet from the back of the main house to where the proposed new building is going to be.
Okay, so
that's about
story,
16.
it's 16 feet from the main dwelling.
Exactly. And then you need the additional space from there so that you can build the property. But that's the first parameter. And then the second one is if you were to do a 2-story building, then you need to have a 7.5 meter setback, which is just about 24 feet.
Okay.
Now, why do they really do this? What is that? A lot of it is basically just sunlight, sunlight and access to green space in the backyard. So that's one of the things that they really look at, and that's why that 2.5 meter distance exists. So those are some of the items that are on the checklist that we take a look at. But from there, we come up with an understanding for the client as to what is the maximum amount that they're able to build.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once we've gathered that information, we've given them that proposal, it's really up to them to see, am I looking to tap into the maximum amount, or am I trying to work with something that's in my budget?
Right.
Let's fast forward, assuming that gets handled and we come up with a finalized, contract in terms of what's the size that's being built, what are the details about the finishings, what are the details about the HVAC unit, the systems that are operating the house. Once we hash all of those things out and we come up with a full proposal, the next step is basically applying for a building permit with the municipality. And this is a very similar process to any other building permit that is required when you're thinking of erecting another structure or doing any sort of structural changes to your property. But the key factor to point out here is that if you're within all of those setbacks and basically bylaw requirements, the city calls the application process an as of right, which means that as long as you're within those parameters, there is no additional hearing from another body that needs to be factored into, such as what you find in things that are called minor variances and the committee of adjustment. So the city is the one that's solely going to be reviewing it and providing the permit. So this saves a lot of time and a lot of various things that could come up if you're dealing with a permit process where it requires input from your neighbors and the city, the committee of adjustment. So
sorry to interrupt you, Ali. How long does that generally take then? Once you've got all your boxes checked as far as your variances or your setbacks go, and you know what those are, and you apply for the permit, how long is that generally taking?
So assuming that the permit package, and the permit package is the survey, is the architectural drawings, the mechanical, and the structuring, assuming that that has already been taken care of, which can take about 2 to 3 months, depending on the various back and forths and if there's any modifications. Once you're ready to submit to the city for a zoning review, and then subsequently after that is going to be the building review, that can take anywhere from 2 to 3 months right now within the city of Toronto. Other municipalities, they're roughly around the same timeline as well. So that's basically the zoning, which is the first step, reviewing it, saying that, okay, this meets the zoning requirement. You are in a residential property. You do have access to all of these various setback requirements. And then it gets pushed to the building department, who now comes in and assesses all the various components of the build, from the structure to the foundation, to the height, to the windows and things like that. So that process takes about.
You're talking about the range of 4 to 6 months from when you get on site and you bring in all of your partners to get all of that pre-work done, and then you go to the city with your checked boxes and everything you need and your permit request. You're looking at 4 to 6 months for that entire process before you get to Moh, who's going to come in and build the unit. Is that right?
Precisely, yes. Yes. And now I would say add a few little bit of buffer in there as well. And the reason why is that as much as we're finding now, as much as the city is pushing homeowners and in favor of this, unfortunately, they're still short-staffed. There's still a little bit of delay when it comes into processing it. So give it a little bit of a contingency on the timeline. So if you're in a rush, I would say maybe try to reassess, but understand that things can take a little bit longer, or on the more positive end, it could be a lot faster too, because it's a mix of
And that's why we always like to give a range. So, if you're looking at the short end being 2 months with you, 2 months in getting it approved versus 3 months with you and 3 months getting it approved. I always love to give a range. I never want to get pinned down to, I'm a realtor, so you don't ever want to get pinned down to one value.
What I like to add as well is, like, on our end, on our team, we're very proactive when it comes into the whole submission phase. So it's not a matter of just sending it to the city and then waiting for them to respond. We like to follow up with the city, from the examiner to the building department officials. There's a constant communication as to just understanding where things are on the entire in the various steps that the city has and where they are, so that we have a better understanding while we're equipping ourselves for the next phase. So that's one of the other value adds that we bring to the table.
Fantastic. So, okay, once we're at the table, we've got an approval. Mo, how long does it take for you and your crew and your team of builders to come in and actually put this structure up from start to finish?
As you know, it depends on the job site, how much space that we have. We can go to backyard. For example, sometimes from the laneway, there is enough space. We can go from the back street to laneway. And sometimes, for example, for garden suite, we have roughly around 3 feet, 2 feet, or 4 feet at the side of the house. And sometimes we have a driveway. For each of them, different time requirement because of the material, because of the concrete, the excavation, everything that we have it. But usually when we go to job sites, roughly around 5 to 6 months, we can finish on site. And in these days, as we spoke together, we want to add something that's a prefabricated tiny houses to them. And there is several opportunity for our clients that some part we can make it in our factory, or combination of the factory and on-site or on-site. For the first and second, we can save the time. And it depends on how much space that we have it over there, or we can take it by crane, or they have to do by hand when we don't have space between two houses as a setback, side setback that we have. But 4 to 6 months is average. We can finish one of the houses.
That's so exciting. And you mentioned so many great key buzzwords there: tiny houses, laneway houses, garden suites, prefabs, and the other piece is container homes. So you and your construction group can give give our clients that full range and discuss sort of what's best based on their property and maybe some of their restrictions or limitations.
As you know that we have roughly around 55% of the construction in-house. Nice. From engineering and permit, and after that, then you go to job site. We have in-house concrete company. We have kitchen cabinet and millwork manufacturing. Fantastic. Your door company and the vinyl window company that we have it. All of this matters helping us to save time. And before, sometimes, for example, before we get the permit, we can prepare all of them on site. And when we get the permit, we can move them on the job site. And this matter because of our experience, as you told us about the container or prefab. Usually we don't make container houses. All of them something like, for example, this shape is something like prefab, but different material. When we have different siding, different composite and everything, and the shape is something like prefab, but some of them we make very beautiful and most beautiful than the actual house. We have it already.
Absolutely. I've seen your work and it is fantastic. It's very exciting. Now, I know this is a tough question, but I'm going to ask you for a range because we all know that when it comes to building, there's so many factors that come in as far as finishes and the size, as well as, the limitations of the property and how long it takes you to get things in. And hey, if you're renting or bringing in a crane, we know that's going to cost. But can you give a homeowner, and I know we were using a case study in an area that we both work in often because they have such large lots in Willowdale and the Bayview Woods area, Bayview and Steeles. So those are really prime properties with, smaller bungalow type houses that can actually have these massive lots that can really take on these 1 to 2 level units. What range can we give someone in an expectation of how much something like this can cost?
So before Mo answers that, I want to give a quick teaser to that. What I actually tell clients off of that question is any way you slice it, it's going to be cheaper than investing in a bachelor suite anywhere in the city. So that's one way of thinking. I love that.
Okay, so it's a better, and I can say as a realtor, because I can't give you an exact amount that it's going to increase the value of the property, because we have to take a look at the area that you're in and how big the unit is, the finishes that it has. But I can tell you that it's going to increase the value of your property more than finishing a basement apartment will. And the likelihood is that it's going to yield more in rental income. So you have two ways that it's, we know that any sort of property that can create income is going to be worth more than one that cannot. And so then we also know that something with a second dwelling opposed to in the same unit is also going to create more value. And the likelihood is, because it's newer and it's bigger and it's separate, it's going to yield a higher rent. Now, for a 2-bedroom unit in a 2-bed, 2-bath unit in the areas that we were discussing, the current market rent is anywhere between $2,300 and $3,000 a month. So that's that range as far as what it would yield in rental income. And so what's our range, Mo, on price for those units?
The price is as much as the house is bigger, the price is lower. For example, we can start from $350 per square foot, but there is a start for that. It depends on what kind of finishing, the size of the property, and the accessible, everything that affect on the prices. And we have had so many projects that we have made 4-bedroom. Even for example, we had a project in Rogers and Dolphin area, 650 square feet roughly each floor. We made 4-bedroom, and upstairs 2 washroom and laundry room upstairs, and main floor huge. And for that process, and we have had another 3-bedroom in Rossensville area, and the prices for the rent, you can we wonder that they rented out between $4,000 to $4,600. The price of the rent in that area.
Fantastic. Okay, so anywhere from $350 per square foot and up, depending on obviously your finishes, your limitations, and all that sort of stuff. Now, does that include all those sort of drawings and permits? Is that an all-in price when we're talking 350 square foot, or is that just for construction?
That is for construction. And as we have done, for example, it depends on what kind of engineering. Sometimes takes time more and less, and add plus engineering.
So that's the hard cost. And hard costs, as you know, is everything from the concrete to the wood to the framing to the finishing of the actual build. And then the rest of that is the soft cost, which is the entire permit package from the surveyor and the grading plan all the way to the mechanical engineering. And then in certain cases, depending on basically what the current state of the lot is, just servicing the property can have an extra cost as well. So if you need to do any service upgrades to the current water system, to the utility system, those are all site specific. So some houses, they currently have the 200 amp, it's running, it's perfectly fine. Houses have 3/4 inch or 1 inch in some cases, water coming in, and those are adequate. So we are able to tap into those utility lines and basically go from there. If they don't have that, then we have to go through a service upgrade, which has certain fees associated with them as well.
Well, it certainly is a really interesting idea, and something that, people who are, if you want to say house rich and cash poor, should be looking into, because it generates income, it adds value to the property. And what you can do is actually, take out a HELOC or tap into the equity of your current property. If you bought your property for $40,000, $100,000, 30 years ago, and you're sitting on a large lot, this could be a fantastic solution for you to tap into that equity, add value to the property, create monthly income that can help you utilize the value of your property now and put more cash in your hands right now. So, it's interesting solution for sure.
It's a no-brainer. How I say it is, it with this bylaw passing and with these bills that are being passed with the city, I think they're very much becoming more forward thinking as to giving normal homeowners the ability to become landlords and become contribute to the housing stock. Now, in the beginning, like the concept of affordable housing, it might not be as clear because obviously when you're building this, you're going to build it to a grade where you're going to be able to maximize and be able to get really good rates. But eventually, what it's going to do is that, if you have a proper strategy in place, you're able to become a portfolio owner of single family detached homes across the city. And as you know, Toronto there's no slowdowns when it comes to immigration. And at the same time, it's been an increase in the unavailability of housing. So all of those factors play a really big part on why it makes sense for homeowners to at least consider putting that money back into their existing property, as opposed to maybe thinking about other things.
Well, I'll tell you something, it's a lot cheaper than buying another property. And it's a lot easier than splitting a lot. Right?
Yes.
So if you have aspirations in the city of Toronto of growing your portfolio, it's absolutely an amazing way to do that without the full purchase price of another $1 million property, or going through the business of splitting lots and trying to work on that. This is a fantastic, affordable way for an individual owner to become a multi-unit owner. To create cash flow in their hands, to alleviate the affordability issue. And like you said, to become this person who, has multi-units. And now you're talking about not even just one unit, but when you can put a 4-bedroom unit in, which is more like a that's a 2-unit dwelling on your property, plus the one you probably are already living in, that becomes a three dwelling property, right?
Also, in future, maybe that for the laneway suite or garden suite, maybe they can make it each floor another unit and more income for the owners. That's more add value to customers that we have it and all of the owners. That is very important. And another thing that is not only limited to Toronto area. In these days, most of the cities in GTA, and they allow that, and all of the cottage country they can do that, and most of the part of the Ontario, because as you know that they told they need 1.5 million houses in Ontario. This affordable housing and prefabricated and on-site, we can send it to all of the Ontario.
That is fantastic. And thank you for sharing that, because, lots of us, we're not living just in the 416, the 905 and the Greater Toronto area, and even the Greater Golden Horseshoe. There's so many great communities. And, the rule is, as you go further out, the more land you have. So that makes an idea like this even more affordable and more doable with some of the regulations for setback. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing that with us today. I wanted to also talk about I know, Moh, that you're dedicated to teaching in your industry. And I wanted you to talk to us a little bit about, for people who have, a desire to get into your industry, how can they, what is it that you're doing in your industry to educate?
Roughly, I have to say that all of my life I've been a teacher, plus of my jobs. And from the day I came to Toronto, I saw that there's a lack of the educated laborers in Ontario. And always we're thinking about that. And finally, we decided to have our own construction trade college. And in last 22 years, roughly in my company, 1,400 kids, they came from colleges, from schools, from foreigner and newcomers. They came and I taught them about the construction from A to Z. And some of them, they have their own company right now, and they help the society, they help the municipality, they help the federal government that they are doing right now. And finally, when we decided to have our own construction trade college, we wrote all of them, and we are going to process of the registration. And Ali knows and can explain better for this part, and Ali is here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, this is something that is Moh's basically idea, and that idea came from really a lack of skilled trades, and not necessarily because their conditions are not there. It's just we feel that there is just a lack of standard across the construction industry.
Right.
You have the big guys, you have the guys working in the unions, you have the guys working in the Ellis Dons and the PCLs who have their own format who are building these large facilities. But when it comes into the more of a private sector, dealing with homeowners, dealing with investors, the industry is very much an open door policy. As long as you can identify yourself as someone who's a contractor, you can basically walk into anyone's home and be able to work on their biggest investment. Most people, their home is the biggest investment. So we realize, if and obviously, the all the data out there showing that by 2030, almost more than half of the current workforce is going to be retiring. That gap needs to be filled one way or another.
Yeah.
Right. Moh has played his part in basically educating anyone who is interested in working and, getting the experience through our projects. But we realize we have to create another path. And education is probably the most important thing. So we're right now with the process of applying to the ministry for getting the registration approval. We're very hopeful because we've already had conversations, and the program itself, it's a very quick program. It's about 3 to 4 months for you to go in, get all the hands-on skills that you require to equip yourself, from someone who's never touched a tool to someone who is shifting away from another career and coming in who might have had some experience as well. But really, just to point out, just like certain other educations where you get the basic knowledge, but you learn everything on the site. That's sort of what we're also pushing. We're telling them, hey, this is how you're going to be using this space. You're actually going to be building things in our facility. But the key ingredient that we're trying to push and focus on is the ability to be able to shape your character when you're in the business, when you're in the trades, when you're on the job site. So career development and character development is one of the areas that we're really focusing on. We want them to be punctual. We want them to be people that uphold themselves to a certain value, and that they can transfer that over to the client so that the clients appreciate and understand that there's a lot of value that's being provided through our graduates as well. So we're almost in the process. It's almost finished. And once we have that approval, you'll be one of the first people to know, and we'll go from there.
I love that. Your company is very innovative, filling gaps that need to be filled. I mean, not only with affordable housing, and these very timely tiny houses and garden houses and laneway houses, which is, cutting edge in the Greater Toronto Area and the Greater Golden Horseshoe, but also, helping. I mean, we absolutely need tradesmen, but we absolutely need professional tradesmen with great character, operating properly on people's biggest assets, 100%. And coming up with the education and facilitating that for newcomers and people who are transitioning from other industries or other trades, and expanding that is an amazing asset to real estate and the development of real estate in the Greater Toronto Area. So we so appreciate you both. Where can people reach out to you, not only for the education piece, if you're a carpenter or a tradesman or have aspirations for that, but also if you're a homeowner and you're looking to develop a tiny house, a garden house, or a laneway house, or any type of construction, where can people reach you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all over social media, our tag is Atena Construction, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And then our website is atenaconstruction.com. And Mo's phone number as well. Everything is going to be there. Our email is info@atenaconstruction.com. And we really welcome everybody from clients who have they require more information, or clients that say, I have a permit in hand and we want to build, what does that look like? To the individuals who this message and this our vision resonates with them, who wouldn't mind playing a part in sort of what we're trying to push with our education side. So we very much welcome that.
Fantastic.
And our team is ready for all of the agent, all of the investor. If you have any question, anytime, our team, they are ready to answer you.
Fantastic. And I'm going to make sure that all this information and all the contact information for Moh and Ali and Atena Construction are part of all of our social media that goes out with this podcast. So you can absolutely reach out to them on any of those channels and engage them in, adding value to your property, adding value to your education, and becoming part of the solution in the Greater Toronto area to the real estate issues and real estate development. Thank you so much, Moh and Ali, for being with me today. I really appreciate you both.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.